Tonight on Closer Look, missing in action. The Royal Ontario Museum can't account for over 2,200 items that are supposed to be in its collection, according to documents released under access to information laws. Among those items missing are 10 harpoons. And the reporter who dug up the story and broke it across the Village Media Network is Patrick Kane, who joins us now from Toronto. Patrick, this is a fascinating story you've uncovered. How did you come up with the idea to even ask for this information in the first place?
Well, the British Museum in London had a very large-scale theft a number of years ago, and it occurred to me that museums must have a sort of reconciliation process between what they're supposed to have on paper and what they actually have in practice. And the museum is subject to FOI law, so the request proceeded from there.
How long did it take, Patrick, for the Freedom of Information request to be processed and approved? And maybe if you can, for the audience, describe what's involved in an FOI request.
Well, you file a formal request with a public body that's responsible under the Act, and they came up actually with a list of missing items. It was a bit confusing, and then we zeroed in some things that interested us. The whole process took about 9 months, but I weren't in a particular hurry, so we were able to. The list was confusing to start with, so we zeroed in on details and asked questions, and they had to think about the responses and so forth. They never had a request like this before.
Okay, let's talk specifics. We know about the 10 harpoons. What are some of the other items the ROM can't account for?
Some coinage. There's some things. The question is, if it's not there, where is it? And there may be an accounting issue. Some things may well have been stolen. We don't have evidence of a large-scale theft exactly. All the museum knows that it's on paper that something is supposed to be there and it's not. However, they explain for the context of why this can happen is that the ROM is still working with the collection for inventory practices of anything up to 100 years ago. They're still working with the inventory practices of the museums from which the ROM itself was founded before 1915. They're working with very old documents, so they have a bit of a context for why these discrepancies exist. Some of them may be straight up thefts. Some of them may be archaeologists who brought home a bucket of something back in the day.
Has the museum contacted local authorities to investigate this, Patrick?
They went through their protocol for involving police, and one of the things they pointed out was the curator I talked to pointed out is that they very often don't have enough detail for the police to really work with. Basically, someone studied an object 20 years ago. It was there then. It's not there now. They have a description and index card, and it's sort of in some ways not worth really using up police time on, in a sense, because they can just tell them so little. It'd be such an empty report.
Is there anything else, Patrick, that I didn't ask you that you think is worthy of covering and passing along to the audience tonight?
I liked the idea that a museum of the ROM's missing stuff would just actually be a really cool museum on its own. It'd be interesting. It'd be super random. It would have the 10 harpoons. It would have all kinds of antique clothing. It would have strange coins. You wonder what the organizing principle of it was. It would be just like a museum of interesting stuff. I would pay money to see that museum.
Toronto Today reporter Patrick Kane and missing items from the Royal Ontario Museum on tonight's Closer Look.